hiring, training, and retaining rock stars, this hero family will grow opportunities for generations to come.
Welcome to Routes to Riches with Kemp Anderson. I'm Brad Harbison with PCT Magazine, and I'm joined by Kemp Anderson and Grant Sinna of Kemp Anderson Consulting. And today we're talking with leaders from Aero Exterminators, CEO Emily Thomas Kendrick, Chief Development Officer Kevin Burns, and President and COO Tim Pollard. And so Aero is widely recognized as one of the pest control industry's best examples of a company that has built and sustained a winning culture. And beyond attracting great people and delivering exceptional customer service, a strong culture can become one of a company's most valuable assets, driving financial performance and making a business far more attractive when it's time to sell. So in our podcast today, Emily, Kevin, and Tim are going to share how Aero has built a winning culture and why this is so important to them. And I wanted to start with Kemp. Kemp, this is a great podcast topic. And how do you define culture?
Well, thanks, Brad. Thanks to you and PCT and GIE and your team, and incredibly grateful to have Emily and Kevin and Tim here with us. One of the best teams I've ever been around. The leadership is great. The culture there is special. And when I think about culture, really, I'm going to use the word academic definition of culture is what does a company value, and then what does a company believe in? And it takes good leadership to figure it out, put it in place, and make it happen day in and day out. I've been around this team, Kevin, Tim, and Emily, for years. We've done a lot of acquisitions. It's wildly clear how much they care about people and how good their culture is. So when I think about culture, there's certain things that are very important to a pest control company, and they somehow don't end up on the P&L, primarily because they're hard to quantify. And you think about route density, you can't find that on the P&L. You think about employee retention or customer retention, they're not on the P&L, but they're mission critical to any pest control company, and culture too. And I've sat with Kevin with a lot of acquisitions with our clients, and he talks about culture every single time, and they're just exceptional at it. So I want to say thank you, incredibly grateful to the three of you joining us, and maybe we can help pest control owners out there understand a little bit about what you do and how you do it and why it's so important while they own the business and when they go to sell it. So maybe sort of clarifying what it's all about. So thank you guys.
Yeah. And Emily, I know culture, it's a topic near and dear to you. Can you tell us what is the corporate culture at Aero Exterminators?
First of all, thank you, Tim, for the kind words. And thank you, Brad and PCT, for having us on to talk about really my favorite topic when it comes to our business. And I'm just going to start with what we call our vision statement, because it says it really, really well. And it's basically, we are tenaciously persistent in protecting our family culture and providing an awesome experience in every interaction. By hiring, training, and retaining rock stars, this hero family will grow opportunities for generations to come. And we're going to do it all with a clear conscience. Okay, so let's unpack that, right? So 2 words I want to pause on are tenaciously persistent, okay? That is not accidental language. That is my and my family's language. And you got to think about it, protecting a family culture at our scale, okay? We're coming up on 3,700 ladies and gentlemen on our team, 201 locations. We're now in 16 states. Protecting that family culture really requires active, daily, relentless effort, right? It doesn't maintain itself, right? We have to fight for it each and every day. And if you notice in our vision statement, which is what we aspire to every day, family culture comes first. Okay. It comes before growth. It comes before the customer experience. It comes before opportunity. It's very intentional. And I like to say, guys, that family culture isn't a benefit we offer at Arrow. Okay. It's the foundation that we build on. It's an actual operating system of our company. And I'll just say, our company was founded on a simple belief, right? You treat your team members like family, and then that care is going to expand outwards to our customers, our communities, our partners. I mean, it's we're going on 60 plus years ago. My grandparents building this thing, my dad and my uncle carried it forward, and now it falls to me and my generation and our leadership team to really pass it forward. So again, I appreciate getting to talk about my favorite topic, which is culture, and specifically our family culture at Arrow Exterminators.
That was a great overview, Emily, and I appreciate you sharing what culture means to you and the team at Arrow. I want to dive into that a little bit more, and I'll start with Tim. Tim, who defines culture at Arrow, and can you share how it's implemented or experienced?
Sure, I'd be glad to, Brad. Thanks again for having us. Really appreciate it. Something we really enjoy talking about. And really, Arrow's culture started 62 years ago with Emily's grandparents. And it's been carried on now through every generation, and now under Emily's leadership, leading our team, right? And not only just our executive leadership team, but you have to carry that throughout the organization. It has to go out through, of course, all of our executive leadership, but then every level within the organization, all the way down to all of our 201 service centers. And one of the best compliments that we receive is when customers tell us just what a great job their person did when they came to service their home or their business. And they can tell that culture is important, and it's important to us, and it's important to them. And that means it's carrying out and going all the way through the organization, which is what you want to have happen. And so it's defined at every level. It starts at the top, obviously. Hey, you gotta set the tone. But if it starts and stops at the top, then you got a problem. Okay? Because then it's just words, because culture is all about not just the words that people say, but it's also the experiences they have, the actions they see, and then what they start to believe is true about a company. You always say talk is cheap. Well, you have to see, hey, do people really believe it? Do the actions really back up what they say? And when you accomplish that, then you see that carry out to a great customer experience.
And Tim,
Can I add two?
go ahead. Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to give two examples of this when you talk about Tim, it being carried out in all of our locations. I mean, these two things just came up on Friday afternoon. Okay, we've got a manager of one of our commercial service centers up in Tennessee, and I get a video on Friday afternoon, and it's this little girl opening a card. It's a birthday card. I'm like, what is this? Okay, this manager sends a birthday card to every single kid of every single team member in his office with a lovely message, okay, and like a $5 or $10 McDonald's or Starbucks or Chick-fil-A gift card. I'm going, are you kidding me? You send that to like I don't have kids, but one of my grandkids, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to run through a wall of fire for you. I was so blown away by this. And then the second one was Friday evening. I'm on Facebook and I'm going through, and I see one of our managers down in South Georgia, and he and his team had a big baby shower luncheon Friday afternoon. 3 team members are either going to be dads or moms in the next few weeks, and they had a big baby shower. And I wrote in there, I said, "Hey, does anybody need an Arrow onesie?" Because I sent out these Arrow onesies. I started doing this years ago, and it became a thing. And I got a text almost right away from the manager, and he's like, "Yeah, can you send these? You know, it'd be great if they got them before the babies came, et cetera, et cetera." But it's just 2 very small examples that that just kind of came up organically just at the end of last week. I just had to throw it in there as you talk about, the front line at our 201 offices now, Tim.
As you guys think about the front line and these examples that you both gave, is there any specific way that culture is communicated from the 3 of you or from the leadership team to the branches, or is it like Tim said, you know, walk the walk? How do you communicate culture from corporate to branch? Is there a channel for that?
Kemp, I'll jump in to start with, and then Emily and Kevin can join in as well. But one of the things we do is try to keep it real simple. And one of our mottos, sayings, taglines, whatever you want to call it, is do the right thing the right way every time. And that has just become something that sounds so simple. It's real easy to say, but if you believe it and you live by it, then that carries out through the organization. And it's simple to remember. Hey, if I do the right thing, I'm going to be good. And right thing is taking care of that customer and helping them see, what some of those examples are. And if you take care of that customer experience, everything's going to be good.
And I would also say, and Kevin, I'll let you jump in too, is there is not a meeting at any given level of our company or a discussion that does not somehow talk about our culture. It's just what we do, and it's not even a muscle we have to try and exercise anymore. It just is what we do. We know that for us, not every company's like this, but for us, we always say that our culture is our biggest competitive advantage, and it just is. And it doesn't mean we get it right every time.
I agree.
Because we don't. And when we don't get it right, man, it hurts. And you shake your head and you go, man, we failed somewhere along the line here, and we go about making it right. I mean, we're acting like, oh, everything's always perfect. No. Mistakes get made. Everything's not perfect. Every once in a while, you get a bad apple, and you got to get them out of there. I love Tim will sometimes say, we're gonna invite this person to find an opportunity elsewhere and take the axe out of their hand, because we're not gonna have an axe taken to our culture.
Right. It's funny because I tried to write down 3 words when I thought about Arrow and culture in this podcast, and the 3 words I wrote down were energetic, honest, and caring. And that came from exposure that I've had with you guys over the years, and I was trying to think about it, and the more I thought about it, just everybody that I've met, I ran into one of your managers last week at FPMA, and just immediately was greeted, and I'm like, man, of course it's an Arrow guy, so,
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I would just add, Tim and Emily said it great. The culture, it's pervasive. It's throughout the organization. It's hard to say, how it got there. It's just pervasive. And I'll give you just one of my favorite examples, because it's just not something that you see other companies do. It was new to me when I came to the company 22 years ago, and that is at the executive level when we have our monthly meetings, our get-togethers, and people will present after they've done their presentation on whatever the topic is, whether it's operations or marketing, sales, etc. then they pause and show pictures of their family, of what they've done since the last time we're together. So Emily will do it, Tim will do it. Maybe it's just one or two slides, but it's how we stay in touch with each other at our level, and then we encourage that throughout the organization. So, Emily's Ben, who's in the Coast Guard. We know where Ben is at all times, right? Or Tim's son TJ is at Georgia. So we know all these things because we have a way to communicate. So, like I said, it's pervasive, it's fun. We keep it light. Now, when we're presenting on marketing or sales, I mean, we can be we're business-like, okay, but then we get to the personal side and stuff.
That's awesome. It just wanted to dig in a little bit as kind of on an operational level. So maybe I'll ask this one to Tim. Tim, do you reward culture at Arrow?
Yeah, I mean, Brad, if you think about what gets rewarded gets repeated. Okay, that's something we've all heard almost our entire career, and it's cliche for reasons because it's true. So, one of the things we like to do is to have different events at Arrow to kind of carry through our culture, right? And so, I mean, for example, like this past week, we had an ice cream social at the event, and at every service center, puts together a real, not just, I mean, we can't just have like a bowl of ice cream. Like they go like these massive displays and take videos of it, post them on TikTok, send them out throughout the organization. And you think something just as simple as, hey, it's summer solstice, let's do an ice cream social. We do it at the home office. I mean, those kind of things. And throughout the year, I mean, we'll do wellness events. We'll do fall events, wear a flannel shirt day or, ugly sweater day or, whatever. But those kind of things, and they're those kind of small rewards, but it encourages our teams to get together. Now, listen, we also have, bigger reward trips and things, right, that are connected to how we do financially as a company, but also how we do taking care of our customers. And you always like to talk about the what and the how. Both are extremely important. And, those are big trips that we do to, really great locations that people can qualify for. But it really is throughout the organization. And Brad, we like to think about it is those kind of things help us recruit and retain top talent.
Yes.
And if you can attract good people and have good people in your organization, then those people continue to attract good people. And that's what's really allowed us to recruit over 3,000 team members in the past 15 years to accommodate and meet the needs of our growth. And, when you say that, it's really quite amazing when you think about you've added over 3,000 people to the company in 15 years to accommodate the growth. I can remember Emily and I standing up in front of our team years ago and saying, hey, we're going to have to hire 1,000 people to meet the needs of our growth. And our team looks at us with this look like, how in the world are we going to do that? But you know what? There's processes that you have. I mean, it doesn't just happen. You got to have a plan, a strategy, and a process. But then the more you attract and you have these culture items, people want to be a part of that. And then it becomes something that you can carry on throughout the organization.
And I know on that subject of growth, Tim, I know, Emily, you mentioned the company is closing in on 3,700 employees, I believe you said. So as Arrow continues to grow, do you view culture as becoming more or less important?
I mean, this is an easy one, even I can answer it. More important than ever, Brad, truly. I mean, listen, growth is a must, okay, for us. I mean, growth is a must. It's going to allow us to create more jobs. We can employ more team members, support more families, create opportunities. for generations to come, right? Just like I talked about in our vision statement. But I will also say that um, growth for sure is also the greatest stress test that a culture will ever face. I mean, truly. And we feel that, okay? When I joined the company in the late 90s, which by the way seems like yesterday, but apparently it's almost 30 years ago. But nevertheless, when I joined in the late 90s, I knew almost every team member. I mean, I knew their name. It was amazing. And when everyone knows each other, being a family, quite frankly, is a lot easier. It kind of happens naturally. It just is what it is. But you get to almost 3,700 team members, 16 states, 201 locations. I mean, that family culture doesn't happen by accident. Like I said, you got to fight for it. You've got to be relentlessly intentional. And I mean, that's going to mean constant investment. And I mean, like a lot of investment, a lot of money, consistent communication. We have to be better communicators than ever. And I feel like we've always been pretty good communicators. And now we have to be better than ever. And then we got to have leaders at every single level modeling that behavior every day, not just when I'm around. I mean, it's great, to do it when I'm around, but where the rubber really meets the road is when I'm not around, or when Tim's not around, or Kevin's not around, or the regional VP isn't around. It's, what's happening out in the field every single day, what's happening as team members talk to each other, out by their trucks every morning. That's where it really, really matters. And I'll just say that our commitment to our family culture, our entrepreneurial culture, it really remains at the heart of everything we do as we expand. It is absolutely non-negotiable, and we know what we'd be giving up if we let it slip. Okay, and what I've always said, and I truly believe, if you lose your culture, it is. I'm not saying it's impossible to get it back. But boy, is it a heavy lift.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might just be gone. You just might not be able to get it back. And that's why it's so crucial to protect it at every single level. Like Tim said, I love Tim saying about, if someone is acting up when it comes to culture, you got to take the axe out of their hand, and you have to invite them to exit the organization, period.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of great lessons there. You can't let your teams get siloed. You've got to keep that communication flowing at all levels in order for that culture to continue to sustain itself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, Tim, I know kind of what Kemp talked about at the beginning. Culture is something maybe that's difficult to quantify, but can you kind of also share some examples of how it impacts a branch's financial performance?
Sure. Yeah. I think Kemp did a great job starting off saying, there's lots of things that happen within a company that don't show up on a balance sheet or financial statement, but we know that they drive the business. We know that, right? And culture is one of those things. And the way we look at that is we know that culture is going to help us retain top talent. It's going to help us to continue to recruit top talent. And then if we've got folks that want to be here, enjoy working here, then we know that is going to carry over to the customer experience. And ultimately, y'all, that's what drives this business, right? We know it's a simple business, right? Sell it, service it, collect it, and retain it. We've heard that our entire career. But taking care of that customer, if you've got a team member who has bought into the culture and loves it, and loves being here, and loves waking up every day, and feels blessed to be part of the organization, that's going to carry over to the customer experience. And like Kim mentioned early, those are things that drive the financial statements of a company that don't show up on there, but we know they lead to the bottom line.
It's funny you say that. You make me think when I started in the industry, also in the 90s, Emily. Um, I don't know how that happened, but it did.
Yesterday.
Yeah, just not too long ago. But I remember being a branch manager at the time at Sears, and Chuck Steinmetz, who I know you guys know, sent out these big envelopes every single month to every single branch, and it had the branch P&L. He's like, no secrets. That was culture, right? But inside that, he had these supplemental reports, and I remember sitting at a desk, and this isn't really a culture story. I'm trying to learn the business, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I see an employee turnover report by branch. I go, okay, I wonder how I'm doing. And I see a sales growth, because if you knew Chuck, you had to be growing. So the sales, I was like, okay. And then there was another one which was profit ranking by branch, and I laid them side by side, and it hit me that the branches that were struggling with employee retention, guess what they were struggling with? Growth and profit. And I'm
Right on.
sitting there, and I'm like, man, this is a people business. This, we can call this pest control. This is people. And I could see it. I couldn't see it on the P&L, but I could see it in those supplemental reports. And I'm sitting there going, holy cow. And that really does take us to this conversation about culture, because it's hard to see, it's hard to measure, but it's shotgunned all over every income statement. It's everywhere. And I guess one question I would like, a follow-up question to Brad's question, can you guys talk a little bit, because everybody I think in the industry knows that you guys acquire consistently. Maybe touch a little bit briefly on blending cultures when you acquire, or what is that process like?
Kevin, you want to jump in there?
I see a grin on Kevin's face.
Yeah.
Well, it's just really such a great question, Kemp. And when we are looking at to grow through a merger / acquisition, we consider a great family culture, or family culture, is table stakes, right? Really not negotiable. And when we're looking at an acquisition, we there's all kinds of ink on paper, right, Kemp? We've done many of them together. At the end of the day, the ink on paper doesn't matter as much as what it's going to feel like once we put the two organizations together. Okay, so let's say we have 20 new people coming into our organization. They're typically going to either blend with our folks that are in that organization, or maybe they have a standalone. But it's going to be a blend of the two families. So we need to look at it that way. The business that comes in, Kemp, we can make modifications as necessary. And oftentimes we'll see service protocols that are very similar, right? We go out and we service pest control, whether it's quarterly or monthly, every other month, whatever it is, it kind of looks the same. The products may be different, but how we get our folks trained, get them in a truck, get them on their route, and do their job in the best way that they know how. We think we have some secret sauce, right? Of course, every company does, but it's a matter of how that team member feels. Like Tim said, if that team member comes in and is happy, they're going to do a better job. So when we're looking at an acquisition, we're looking at what it's going to be from an integration standpoint, because that's where the rubber meets the road. The financial part, obviously we've got to do that. We've got to make those numbers work. But really, it's how the folks in the acquisition will blend with our team, and how our team will blend with those folks from an acquisition.
Yeah, Kevin, curious, you've done so many acquisitions with Arrow, and kind of your observations of culture going through this process. In other words, like, would you proceed with an acquisition if you feel that the culture is lacking, poor, or not aligned with Arrow's culture?
Never say never, Brad. Never say never. But it would definitely give us serious pause. Now, I will say that we have experienced situations in the past that maybe didn't look perfect on paper, didn't feel perfect when we're sitting at the table, and you find a way to move through them, so to speak. However, it's a whole lot easier when you start with a great company culture. Um, you know, we can change the training. It's what I just touched on. We can upgrade training. We're going to typically invest in new trucks. Sometimes we're going to improve technology. That's a big key for us now. We'll rebrand when we need to, but it's those values, Brad. Those are the things that are important, and it's not easy to change somebody's value proposition. Okay, their own personal values. So um,
How about
you know, we'll look at the geography, we'll look at the revenue, um, and if the culture isn't a perfect fit or a fit that we don't think we can make work, then we will walk away, and we have walked away. Kim doesn't like it, okay, but it's something that we have to do if the fit isn't going to be right. Because, as Emily started from the very beginning, protecting our culture is too important. We cannot dilute it with a bad fit. Okay, even in a quest for revenue, a new location, etc., we're not going to dilute our culture. We're
We have
be persistent in protecting
we have
culture.
we've done it before,
Hmm.
and I can tell you what. And I won't say the market. The guys probably know what I'm talking about. We always look at each other like 10 years later and go, "But it's a great market." I mean, it was not a great fit. We knew it going in, and it has been really tough to turn. I mean, tougher than I ever would have expected. And so when Kevin says it really gives us pause, we, we always talk about that one. We're like, remember when? And we thought it would be real easy to, to help evolve that culture. Woo. It's tough. It's tough.
Do you think when you talk about that, Emily, what sort of and really Kevin and Tim, all three of you, when you're looking at an acquisition and blending a culture, and really hopefully this is for somebody who's out there listening, maybe thinking of selling their business one day, what things are kind of like gotta haves versus this? Emily, to your point, ooh, it's tough, but maybe. But when you think about culture in a deal, Kevin, I can't think of how many Cracker Barrels you and I eat that together. But while you're sitting there, that is that one of the hazards of the job, I think. But as you think about culture and you think about sitting across from somebody selling their business, somebody out there listening, what are the things you're either gotta hear, want to hear, hope to hear about their culture as you think down the road of acquiring and integrating and buying?
Yeah, but if I could jump in at a high level, and then obviously Kevin's got more experience with it. I think about one of the things we talk about is, do you know what your company culture is? I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you don't, then that's probably a red flag, right? And if you don't think that you have one, you're incorrect. You have a company culture. Right? You have a culture. No matter, I'm not sure if it's the one you intended to have, but there's one there, and it may have just morphed into this culture over time. But obviously, that can be a red flag for sure. And I know, Kevin, you've got a lot more detail and experience.
Well, so it's funny, Kim. We've had the opportunity to sit across the table or at a table with, many owners in our career, and most of the time when you sit down, the owner is expecting questions coming from me that are financial related. Tell me about your business. Tell me about how much pest control you do. And Kemp, as you know, that's not where we start. We start with, Tell me how you got started in the business. What's important to you? What's important to your team members? And so we get at those cultural questions. No, we don't come out and just say, tell me what your culture is, right? But we get at culture by asking questions that I think sometimes are unexpected. Kemp, you've sat there and looked at owners' faces when I ask a question about their team members or, what's important to them, and they kind of look at you and say, why are they asking about this? Why aren't they asking me about my revenue for the last trailing 12 months?
Yeah, I mean, and I do think there are metrics that you can see. Obviously, when we bring a client to you, you can look at how many miles are on the trucks. That's a cultural thing. Employee retention, employee tenure, those are cultural. Retention by service type, all these things are really sprinkled back into how they're running their business. What do they value? What do they believe in? And there are metrics scattered about, as I like to say, they're not on the P&L, but they're out there if you want to go find them, and they do help you define that culture quantitatively. But Kevin, you've always done an awesome job when we meet with our clients to just sit with them and just talk. It's not a financial assault. It's really a very soft, I want to get to know you, and I want to get to know your business, and I want to get to know what you're about. And all those things are watching you sort of poke and prod around and find that culture. We certainly work with our clients to make sure that they know that these questions are coming, but it's a very, to me, it's always been an interesting subject. I'll say that.
Oh, and Kim, just a follow up. When I'm through with our meetings and I head back to the home office and I sit with Emily, Tim, Joe, they're not asking me questions about financials. Okay, they're not. The questions are about, tell me about you. For instance, Brad. Tell me about Brad. What makes him tick? What makes the company tick? They're not asking financials. Like I said, that's ink on a piece of paper. Okay, some of those things like you talked about, Kemp, they are indicators of culture, but nothing replaces face-to-face conversation and hearing it from the owner's mouth. Because at the end of the day, it starts with the owner. It starts with their leadership team, and as Tim said, if they can't clearly communicate culture, then you're probably not going to be off to a good start.
And then, just to kind of wrap things up a little bit, I mean, I want to go bring this back to Emily to kind of bring it all together. For someone like yourself that's just so passionate about this topic, we've got a lot of listeners, a lot of your colleagues, PCOs that listen to the podcast. What advice can you give to owners who are struggling with building culture in their enterprise?
Okay, yeah. So I love that question. So, yeah, first, obviously, it starts with the owner and their leadership team or their right-hand person in the business. It's got to be crystal clear, right? You cannot build culture without clarity. So, what I would say is, have you given your people a reason to believe in something bigger than this is just what they do and they get a paycheck? There's got to be more, right? So you got to articulate what you stand for in a sentence, or that every person can remember and act on, right? So years ago, I've been how many years ago now, but it's been a long time. We reworked our vision, mission, and core values. Right? It's over 10 years ago, because especially on the vision, it no longer reflected what I said at the time, like why we get out of bed. Okay. So we changed them, we improved them, and now we live them, right? Another thing is, when you're interviewing folks to come on your team, hire for values, not just skill, right? So Vic Hamill from JC Ehrlich, a titan in the business, just, for anyone who doesn't know him, go do a little research. He's an incredible man, an incredible leader. He used to say, hire the smile, right? You can teach someone how to apply various products, but you can't teach them how to care about people or care about solving problems, right? Tim said earlier, celebrate the behavior you want to multiply, right? Whatever you recognize publicly with that team, you're going to get more of, whether that's good or bad, right? And then lastly, what I'd say is culture is not built over a weekend, over a week, over a month, over a quarter. It is built in years. And it's consistency over a long period of time. I personally believe is kind of the only way to do it. So you got to decide who you are, who you want to be, what you want your folks to care about as well, and then commit to it over many years.
Yeah.
That's my best advice.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to Routes to Riches with Kemp Anderson. We'd like to thank again Emily Thomas Kendrick, as well as Kevin Burns and Tim Pollard, again, for sharing how Aero Exterminators has built a culture that drives employee engagement, customer loyalty, and long-term business success. And we hope that today's conversation provided some valuable insights that you can apply to your own organization. And thanks to everyone for listening.